Welcome. Welcome.
I
Welcome.
just wanted to see what happens if I pretend I'm frozen.
You're not, because I can hear all of that background noise from Cyprus coming through the mics. You can't fake it anymore. Today we're on Bambos with your dear friend, Nicole
Nicole
Costerus.
Costerus. She said
Costerus
that.
and
Costerus.
Costerus. Yeah. I love it because there's a UR or US at the end, not an ES at the end. It's so hard for me to pronounce rolling R's. I hate rolling R's. Costerus. And we're going to talk to her about a very fun topic, is how she began to fall in love with money. And we're going to discuss the transition that came in her life, what happened before, what happened after, and how that's impacted her. And we are going to do that on
A wonderful
chaos. Yes, it is, Bambos. Sweet Bambos. It's a wonderful chaos.
It's. I feel very touched to have her on our show. She's like, from what I know from her, she's really busy. First of all, now that she's famous, but I actually logged onto her Facebook, and then I went to her link tree to see what I'm going to say about her, and then I realized I don't want to do that. Like, if I just speak from how it feels to have Nicole in my life, the one word is there's a pure humility, loving relationship. And I see that in her, in how she steps out into the world. And that's why I also felt excited to have her with us.
Yeah.
Because it's also the kind of energy I like surrounding myself, as you know, how energy and having people around you is quite important. And she is someone that really follows her intuition. I remembered her in the Netherlands when we first met. She had just shaved her head. She shared that she ended a toxic relationship. She went, and she can correct me if I'm right about everything that I'm saying.
Yeah.
And she was on her way to India afterwards, and she was going into like darkness retreats. And she kind of really went into places around the world, also into the Amazon, where she would cut herself from the rest of the world and go in and go in. And there was I never saw moments on social media where, you know, I'm in Bali and I'm doing this. Her sharings were always really grounded. So in a way, where she is right now in her life is not a surprise. It's a consequence.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I called before we got on, I did my quick talks, and I said, you know, I asked her, hey, preparing for the show, you know, can we discuss like how much money you're making, you know? And it was really sweet. Like, I saw this full embodied comfort with, sure, like with no, not even a second thought, like, I got to be conscious. Maybe someone thinks I'm making too much money. Maybe someone thinks I should be making more money. Whatever the stories are, it was like there was no even a second thought given to that. And I just thought that was just so sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what I thought was also cool about her story is there's two sides to it. Because I think I also love that you're not detached from her story, because you also have been trying to, you know, create your own business. So seeing how successful she had gotten also triggered you in and we discussed, which I thought was fantastic, just owning that, Jesus, I'm working my ass off and I'm not, you know, and I thought that was really wonderful as well.
I actually messaged her that I saw her talk, and I really felt triggered. And there was a space in me which I don't remember how I rephrased it, but I remember I fully owned it and I celebrated her in that moment. So it's a really fine line, especially in the moments when I'm turning off my social media. In the moment where I saw her post, I was struggling.
Yeah. Yeah. And then someone says, look at me, 6 figures in a year.
Woo!
Woo, look at me. Like exactly what they should be doing, celebrating it, right? And now it's just so hard to revel in it because you're not feeling that abundance in your own life. um
Yeah.
uh and to get to that, it was less than a year ago that she was basically living paycheck to paycheck. She'd make enough money to travel, to have a little time here, a little time there, and then she'd come back, earn some money. And what I thought was really beautiful is that just under a year ago, she just got into a space where she's earned in less than a year over a six-figure salary. And I just think it's fantastic to be in this world where you're like, one point I'm living paycheck to paycheck, and the next I'm basically making more money than I ever imagined myself. Possibly or not, we'll see that when we speak. But just that transition, I think, is just brilliant. And the fact that she was allowing us to bring the subject, because as you know, when someone makes that money, they want to talk about the way they made the money in order to like sell more of what they're making money with. So the fact that Nicole said that actually I'm ready to allow you to engage another topic, I always find that really, really beautiful when people are free enough to say, hey, I'll talk about anything that feels like it's ripe and interesting. So yeah,
Nice.
cool. So I think it's great to bring her on.
Oh, 1 second, Nicole. I'm going to
Yeah,
put
I
you
got her.
exactly where you belong.
Yes, in the middle.
I love it.
That feels
I
nice.
feel competitive with you now, Bambos, because I'm getting thinner now. So I do feel like I am still reasonably attractive compared to how I was a year ago.
You, Andy, if I was not straight, you'd be so my type.
I've lost, Nicole.
Uh,
I've lost. I guess it would be almost 8 or 9 kilos, maybe in the last 3 months. So I've
wow.
really been slimming down. Yeah.
Andy, for me,
Wow.
is someone that has his whole life sorted out, like emotionally, spiritually, mentally, financially, intellectually. It's all. But the physical part actually was the thing that he never really paid attention to. He's been walking around with a kind of Buddha body, Buddha belly,
I didn't care
and
how I looked.
no, I mean
Buddha
he really
belly.
doesn't care. And all of a sudden now he's really kind of completing that circle,
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned.
Beautiful. Congratulations.
So
I,
thanks for being with us, Nicole.
Thank you. I want to open up.
Yeah.
I want to open up with the first question. How does it feel to be rich, Nicole?
Yeah, like before I answered it, I just noticed as you were introducing me, I was like, I went through so many emotions already. I was like, oh, feeling really shy, and other moments feeling really touched. And yeah, it
Uh,
was really nice to be introduced in such an extended version.
what
Yeah.
came up for you?
What came up for me, like I don't even remember. There were so many things passing by, but one of the things that stayed with me was when you said that I feel so open to share about numbers of how much I'm making.
Mm,
And I think the reason why I feel so open about that is because a year ago, I wouldn't be able to understand how to make that amount of money. I would be like, how do people do that?
yeah.
And I think it can be really helpful just to be open about that and share. Yeah.
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 I think when you demystify something, all of a sudden it becomes something other people understand and it makes sense.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. When I work
Yeah.
with someone, by the way, Nicole, like the first thing I'll do with somebody that's trying to make money, and then like the first thing I'll say is, okay, how much do you make and how much do you spend? Like we start with your very simple math, and then we move, but you need to understand yourself first. So I hear that's how it is for you right now.
Yeah. So I think I don't even know what to share, but you asked me how does it feel to be rich? Do you
Yes.
want to
How does it
start
feel to be
there?
rich, Nicole? I'm sorry to jump back to the fun.
Yeah, well, I like the part what Bumbo said about it being a consequence, because I think I started with feeling very rich in myself, like very, and it might sound a bit cliche, but it is actually true. Like since 2016, and when I met Bambus was actually the start of all these big shifts in my life, because that retreat where we met in was the retreat where I shaved my head, I ended my relationship, I I gave away all my things. I quit my job, did everything. I shedded my whole life. And I think that was the point where I really went into a journey even deeper inside, just offering everything back to life and see what was the new life that wanted to emerge from that. And yeah, going from dieting with the Yawanawa tribe in the Amazon to going to darkness retreats, to so many things, so many beautiful experiences that had me connect to a lot of abundance and richness just in who I am.
Mm.
Yeah.
And the
And I
funny
think
thing is, Nicole,
inside, yeah, go ahead.
the funny thing is, anyone watching might want to start following that journey as if that would actually bring them. And I think the way I know you, you're very, there's an intent in how you live. There was an intention. You didn't just go there. Yeah. So I just want to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that there is a formula there, but it's contextual.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, I think that the first place where I always move from, or as much as I can in each moment, is to allow a deeper guidance to guide me in a direction where I can get to know myself deeper as love, as abundance, as freedom. And that's my number one. And all the other things are
Yeah.
a beautiful extra in that. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
I had
for
I had a,
sure.
I had a call with someone yesterday, and I said, yeah. And he said, well, he's trying to get logical answers from me. And I said, yeah, well, I mean, I see the heart of it is love, and when I move from love, everything makes sense, and then it just kind of creates and it reinforces itself. And I could see the person I was talking to needed such a direct answer that was inadequate.
Mm.
And it was funny. I was like, oh yeah, I forget. You need to think that there's a formula in order to be at peace, as opposed to just allow the love to guide you, and then you'll find something special that you can't even imagine ahead of time.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I also met myself in moments where I was striving or when I was holding back many times, and still I can find myself there. So it's not that I'm all the time moving from love and everything is perfect, but definitely have my waves of leaning out and going into a pushing, or leaning back and holding back for sure as well.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'd love to go back to that point, because it would be almost arrogant for one not to live the way you just described. It would be presuming that you've got so much control over your system that there isn't sort of an ebb and a flow of emotion. But what I see in you, just from being in this short time, is at the center of it, there's love guiding it. And so even
Mm,
if it pulls you away to get determined, I'm going to get to that outcome, I want to do this, like, I don't see you as somebody getting so lost that you lose yourself in that. And that's kind of what I'm
mm,
what I'm po- what I'm
mhm.
seeing, I believe, to see, at least.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think what you had with your body being like the last piece of, maybe you didn't give so much attention to that. I had that with money. I didn't give so much attention to that, It was just like, yeah, it was there, and hopefully it was there enough for the things I wanted to do, and that was it.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
I'd love to ask around that exact point. When did it change? Like, I know it was a progressive usually, but give me like a moment when something shifted that was fundamental, that you said, shit, this is something that is going to allow a lot more in my life. Like, what was that point for you?
There's 2 points that come up. One point is in 2015, I got a herniated disc in my lower back, and I couldn't do my job as a social worker anymore, because at that point I was still working in a side job to cover my base costs for my rent, and so that I don't have to put pressure on my business. And I just didn't dare to let go of those final 2 days. But my herniated disc kind of pushed me over the edge, because I could no longer lift the children in my job, and I had to let go of my job, but I could still stand to work with my groups. So
Oh,
that was the last push I needed, to let go of that sense of safety of a job, because I wasn't going to do it by myself. I was too scared to make that leap.
is
Yeah,
that
so
not
that was
incredible?
one, yeah, that was one really significant moment that was really, really scary for me as well. Yeah, but very important, because that was the beginning of a big, big change. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing in life how that works? Like
Yes.
I always love those Buddhist sort of journeys where like the worst thing that you thought could happen, it then becomes the best thing that could happen, and then that becomes then the worst
Yes.
thing. Like it's almost like the journey is not, you can't write the narrative till after the story has been done, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it
So
gave me that
Nicole,
push of like,
Mm,
now it's the time.
yeah.
And I was like, like this.
Mm,
Yeah.
and what was the second point?
Yeah. The second point was actually right after that retreat. No, that was not the second point. That was just another point. So the second point was 1 year ago. That was the biggest point where I decided, okay, now I am going to bring focus into money. Now I am going to dare to raise my prices. Now I am going to, really like set my intention into making more money. That was, I think, the second biggest shift. And there are many in between, but those
yeah, yeah.
two feel
And when
like
you
the biggest
and
ones.
when you did a new price tag, tell me how you felt the moment you upped the prices. Like, what was the feeling you had then?
Yeah, I had a coach, so she really helped me, because I don't know if I could have done it by myself, if I would have been courageous enough. But it felt really scary because I thought, oh, maybe I'm gonna lose now my clients, and they're used to certain prices of me, and I wasn't sure. But the beautiful thing was the moment I set my mentorships and I set the new prices, that same week, 5 women reached out to me and I sold my first 5 packages without even posting or emailing or doing any form of promotion.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
often found the humor of it is, and this has always been, I would almost say, my narrative to this is that once you believe, trust, and feel like you're delivering value at that price, the world meets you there. But you really have to feel completely embodied in that pricing. So I always talk about how when I started my work, it was like 120, I was like 75 an hour. I'm like, oh my God,
Mm.
that's so much money. Who can afford that? And I know these people, they don't make that much. I'm telling all the story. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to
Yeah.
go up to 125. And it's like, oh, 125, it's still, and now it'll go up to sort of 500 an hour or more in some cases. So it's interesting because now, like mentally, I see that the money is not really a thing in my head of, oh, I'm only worth so much or they can only afford so much. And that's a
Mm.
weird thing to explain to somebody because you have to almost do that process on your own.
Hmm. Yeah. And that way, I feel we also grow into our prices.
Yeah.
It's like a constant leaning into my edge and then becoming more comfortable there. And then again, leaning into my edge and becoming more comfortable there.
What would
Yeah.
be what's the price you're uncomfortable offering at the moment?
Of the things I'm offering
Yeah,
already,
yeah, yeah. Of the things you're offering already, yeah. Or anything
what
new
what
for,
I'm what I'm uncomfortable.
yeah, what would you be uncomfortable offering at this moment?
Yeah, I think my edge will be somewhere between above 15,000
About 50,000. For what? For your course?
for my year mentorship.
Oh, nice. I love
Yeah,
that.
anything above that feels very edgy.
Isn't that nice? Yeah.
Yeah.
I, I'm really loving Andy. I can feel how much fun he's having with this conversation.
Yeah.
I see.
By the way, Bambos, I just want to tell you something. I love these moments in all of our shows because Bambos is tracking me very high energy, having a lot of fun. And then he's like, but I would like to get to more deeper sentimental
Oh,
on.
not even
No,
not
no.
even that.
Oh,
Not even
sometimes.
that.
Sorry. Okay.
Okay, Nicole, when you decide to step up and this is the value that I'm offering, how many clients, I don't want to use the word lose, but just for the sake of understanding, how many clients moved away? How many clients came in fresh? And how much time did you create for yourself in terms of freedom? Did you create freedom in terms of time?
Yeah. So about the moving away, I don't know. I didn't notice it, at least. Maybe some moved away, but I didn't notice it because a lot of the women that stepped into my mentorships were actually women that were already journeying with me for quite a while. And they were actually really excited about that next step that they could make with me, or that next process to dive into together. Um, New ones coming in, yeah, some. I do feel one of my challenges is to really, like, I feel my audience expands quite slowly, but the audience that is there is usually very, like, loyal, very wanting to repeat things or doing several offers with me. And yeah, but I do feel there is an edge for me to really, there is a longing here to expand there as well. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love the way
And
you
the
discuss
third
these, by the way.
question.
Just when you talk, I just feel so much love. I just want to share because as you talk about it, it's almost so. I get excited for you in the journey, and I don't see any constraint in it. It's almost like you're laughing and loving the constraints, which I just love to be with. I find that to be so fun. Yeah.
And just to
Nice.
give context, we have had some financial gurus come onto the show, and you can always
Mm.
feel the not really showing themselves and kind of wanting to sell something, but not really saying it. So you feel that there's an undercurrent energy, and with you, I'm just sitting here relaxed. I'm sitting on my
Yeah.
couch. It's like, yeah, it's Nicole.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
probably
it's
wouldn't do the
Nicole.
show with most people because we'd say, "Oh my God, by bringing them on, they're going to be self-promoting whatever it is, and we're going to have to listen to why you should take this course and then earn a six-figure salary yourself."
Yeah. Yeah.
Nicole,
Yeah.
I,
I want to come
I'm
back to that one question though. Do you want to hear the answer or not? Because the third question I think was a really important one. Did I have did I create more freedom for myself? And the answer is no. So this is
Mm,
a process where I'm in right now, actually. Since January, I hired an assistant, and I'm having another assistant set up now, and I am like in the process of creating that freedom again for myself, because I did find myself in a few months where I felt trapped in my business. I was like, shit, I'm making lots more money now, but I'm also working a lot now because all my offers are dependent on my presence.
yeah.
And yeah, so I'm in the process now of recreating freedom in that again, which is really, really important for me, actually.
wonderful.
Yeah.
I love that. That was the question I wanted to ask you as well. I was very keen on in making more money. Were you stuck in terms of working more? And obviously, from your answer, that's been the case.
I was, yeah,
Yeah,
I was. And I love my work, I love doing
yeah.
lots of it, but I also love freedom. And I do have some friends that really inspire me that created their businesses, seven-figure business, in a way that they are really free.
Yeah.
So yeah, my intention is going in that direction now.
Isn't it nice to see this sort of healthy relationship with money?
Oh, absolutely.
What would be, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I know that Nicole's partner is a photographer also as myself. And I was wondering, how did it impact, if anything, the relationship in the dynamics?
Mm, that I started to make more money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think, like, for me, like, the moment where my business started to really expand was around the same time that the lockdown started to happen. And for my partner, the complete opposite happened because he works in the dance industry and the whole dance industry collapsed.
Wow.
So we had a very opposite movement with our businesses. And he he has been very impacted by his own work collapsing. And he's been going through a very, very big rebirth of his own work in a new direction the last year or so. But he has been very, very supportive towards me the whole time, actually. I was feeling sometimes uncomfortable, like, are you okay? How are you feeling? How is this impacting you? And he has been really, really supportive. So I think he had his own impact in his own journey, but never projected that towards me.
So
Yeah.
you can celebrate the earning with him and not feel like he's being diminished in any way.
I had my own challenge in that. I can now, but in the beginning, I did feel moments where I felt like, where I felt a bit shy or a bit like holding back to do that. But when I noticed that he was actually fine, yeah, I felt totally fine with doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I feel it actually created also some space for him to recreate his business without it being too pressured. And now his business is also kicking off, uh, especially in the last weeks, actually, where he's launching his first new offer and the men are signing up. And, I can see that through me earning enough money to have that as a backup also for him, it gave him the relaxation to create without pressure as well. Even though he would put pressure on himself sometimes, it did give a certain safety net there, I feel.
I can't imagine being around your energy and the example you're living without it also rubbing off on him as well.
Mm,
I just see that
yeah.
in my life. People that it's almost, I'll often say, like there's this vibration an individual gives off, and if you spend a little bit more time with that vibration, it wears on you, and you start feeling, oh, that's how it feels when you live like that, and then sort of is almost
Hmm.
like through osmosis, you begin to do more and more the things that lead you in that direction, or the opposite, by the way. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It also really helped me to surround myself more with I have a group of women around me now that are all making six figures,
yeah.
seven figures, and it's really beautiful to just have them around and to being able to check in with each other and talk about things we feel challenged by or grateful with, and yeah.
Yeah.
So you bring me to my next question, Nicole. I
Mm.
know that you're working exclusively with women, and what is it about working with women and getting them to that point, and why do you not work with men?
Yeah, I actually have one man in my one-on-one mentorships. And it's not that I decided like, oh, I don't want to work with men. It's just that I noticed that 90 or 98% of the people that came to me were women. So I think women chose me instead of me saying, oh, I want to work only with women. I
Do
feel
you
very
feel
open to work with men in my one-on-ones.
do you feel a different do you feel a difference in how men go about to get money and how women go about to get money? Like what will be the thing
Mm.
that you feel? And I'm using the word feel consciously, by the way, because I know that's where you come from.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I have an answer for that, to be honest, because my groups are all women. I have one man in my mentorship, but I don't know, to be honest.
Hmm.
I don't know. Yeah.
I'd like to go back to another thing that you mentioned that we didn't dig into, which was you said you're having groups of women that are all sort of in the same earning range as you are at the moment. And
Mm.
my curiosity is, have you found the individuals you're spending time with are different now than they were when you weren't earning that much money, or is it basically the same people before and after?
You mean my friends
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
people I hang out with? I
yeah.
do feel has been a lot of change in the last years. Yeah, a lot of change. And I don't think it necessarily had to do with money. Maybe it's included in this as in that as well. But I think it had to do with just me changing so much in my interest and the way I want to live my life. That's with some friends, we just grew apart, There was just a different lifestyle, different interests, different things we find important. And yeah, there's a natural moving out of many people in my life, which also brought me in a lot of grief, to be
I
honest,
would
a
think
lot
so.
of sadness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was curious because I often find when people make the kind of step that you've made, it's often also some of how a requirement to change the people that you spend time around, because in some weird
Mm.
way, there's a belief system often in a group, like oh, I can imagine. I tell you, a friend, like, really, you're going to charge that much for a course? Nicole, that's too much. You know what I mean? Like, there's like five people around you, and imagine if that's the energy you're with. It's really hard to build in that limited mindset that you're surrounding yourself with. That's what I've found
Mm.
often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think for me, it wasn't about like deleting people out of my life. I think just by me evolving and changing and who I am now, naturally some people were moving out of my life and some people came in. So I
Yeah.
don't feel it was an active choosing of me, because I feel some of the friends that moved out of my life, I love them very deeply still, and I love to see them when I still do. But there's just that natural resonance has changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought as well, by the way. The implication wasn't that you shove them out. It's more like
No.
there's a natural progression that what I've seen is as people evolve, there's a certain energy that they connect more to, and then the vibration, as it were, it kind of finds the right people or the people that are most suitable for
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. And the same for them as well. They
Yeah.
also evolved just in a different direction and
Mm.
meeting their other people in that direction. Yeah.
Some other interesting questions. A lot of times, like the hang-ups with money. Do you feel like you still have hang-ups with money?
What's another word for hang up?
Oh, like
Like challenge?
not in the making money, but just issues around money, like things that come up where you say, "Oh, that I'm still not comfortable when it comes to that in regards to money."
Yeah. I think sometimes my body didn't fully realize yet that I can relax now. So I noticed, like, for me, it's always like I share this example very often when I was in my first 12 days and nights in complete darkness in Mexico by myself. Somewhere halfway down the retreat, I was in such a big unwinding of survival and control mechanisms in my body. And I remember this moment where there was this muscle in my, it sounds a bit funny, but it was a very powerful moment, this muscle in my butt suddenly just relaxing. And I could just feel that that had been contracted for so many, many years. And I feel so many of us on this planet are walking around with a contracted butt because we don't dare to relax. We don't feel safe. We don't feel held. And it causes this survival mechanism. And I was one of them, and I
Mm.
can still feel the layers of that in me relaxing. Like sometimes my partner laughs at me and I am maybe holding back to buy something. And he's like, girl, you're making over six figures. Like you can afford this like $100 thing.
Yeah.
Tesla.
Oh,
And I
uh,
think I still have parts of me that need to realize that fully.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nicole, as you spoke actually, 3 months ago, I ran out of money again through COVID. And I was feeling exactly what you're feeling, this tightness in my body.
Mm.
And
Mm,
I was almost in a panic attack, like I couldn't breathe.
mm,
And as I share the story, it's like, do I end my life? Because I kind of have been living this since beginning of COVID. Do I go to the doctor, get medicated? Like, I just wanted to put the weapons down and lie on the ground and die. And I looked at my yoga mat. I'm like, sit the fuck down. And Wim Hof said, breathe, motherfucker. So I went on 100-minute breathing session. And when I came out of it, there was a space in me. And it was really weird because in that spaciousness, outer world didn't change, but there was a space in me which could breathe. And like,
mm,
because I discovered when I was stressed, I couldn't get creative. There was like, there was no vision for a way out, nothing. And everything I was
mm,
doing before the breathing was fear based. So let's send out 100 LinkedIn messages, but it was all
yeah.
like numbing and I've been dedicating to that 100 minutes, and through that, a new business also evolved. I am nowhere near where you are, but I do see that finding ways to create space in myself worked for me, and being even at peace. And for the first time, I even asked, "Hey, can you loan me money?" Because in the past, I wouldn't even do that. Like, better be homeless than even ask for help. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit where I am, and probably I would love to talk to you after not today. I'm in Cyprus, but I'm feeling excitement to actually work with you. if you want to have another man in your realm, because I want to work with people who I trust, and I feel that they're for me and not this. And that's what I've got since I've known you, photographed you, and now being here with you.
Nice. Yeah, I would love to work with you.
And the guy
Yes.
next to you also, the guy next to you, he's actually the one that helped me overcome my own fears of being a photographer in 2014. Like I didn't have an education, nothing to hold on to, and he's like, you need to state it, put a price, and just do it. And that's actually the guy next to you that helped me manifest my business.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, and you do that work so beautifully. We've done so many photo shoots together over the last few years,
Yeah.
huh? I don't even know how many, but many.
Yeah.
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 When,
I
when,
feel curious, Bambos, like when you had that moment, I feel curious how that went for you. When you had that moment where you made space for all that panic or that survival, and there was this space, and what, like, how did that next wave of creativity come in, or how did that new business come in, or like, what was that next step after that? Because I feel it's such a key moment also for the ones who are listening, such an important process of how to meet those moments of survival and fear.
yeah. What I saw when I was in the panic mode, it's also backed with a lot of shame and a lot of I should not be in this space. The story is I'm 44 years old. I should da 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 da. And now, like, what do I do? Give up, go back home and live with my mother? Like, that's I'd rather die. That was the dialogue. And through the breathing, it, because I also went extreme, I put a timer on for 100 minutes. That's what my intuition said. And I didn't leave. And I did the so-called 4-7-8 breath. Breathe in 4, hold 7, release 8. What I saw was, oh, I can see the thoughts and the stories, but I didn't feel the impact on my body anymore. So it was really for me to separate myself from a story that I was creating about the reality I was living. And breath is what worked for me. And I'm not saying it works for
Beautiful.
everyone, but it's what I had to do. It felt like if my life depends on it, then this is what I'm going to fucking do right now.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And
I
I
remember
do have,
this moment. Yeah, go ahead.
well, I do have to say that my compass point is if I'm taking action from fear, stop, breathe, and reset.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really feel that. And I made that agreement also with myself in that first darkness retreat. Anytime when I feel myself moving from survival or the need to control or that fear, stop whatever I'm doing. I don't care what I'm doing, just stop and make space for that. For me, it really helps to welcome that emotion or that energy to move through my body. And then it just opens in another layer of space. And naturally it pulls in something that I was actually longing for. Yeah. I remember coming out of my darkness retreat, that same retreat, and sitting on the terrace in Mexico, not having any money on my bank account, zero. This was 2018. I didn't have the money to buy my ticket back home to Amsterdam. And I was in full panic. I was like, shit, I really don't have the money right now. And just, I remember making space for all that fear and all that like panic energy. And just that same space was there suddenly, exactly the space that you were describing, Bambus. And I remember looking at my phone and I had 4 signups for my course in Amsterdam, which was exactly the amount I needed to pay my ticket to Amsterdam. So I feel it's like these moments are actually the portal into that next evolution that we are longing for, as long as we don't reject or don't shame ourselves, or when we do shame ourselves, that we welcome the shame as well, that we
Well,
give space for that wave.
I have to point this way. Andy actually says the same thing. Like beginning of COVID, I did go to Eco Plaza, which is the organic supermarket. I bought stuff. I was buying stuff, put it in the basket. I go to the cashier. There was no money on my card, zero. And I looked at the cashier. I'm like, I was red. I felt I shut down. And I went. I put everything back on the shelf, and I left. And then we had to come to the podcast. And I came on the podcast, and I was completely, and Andy felt me, of course, and we actually had the conversation on the podcast, and I was just crying on a live show, and there was so much story, and I saw that the story I was holding was so strong that it was impacting my health also. So Andy also told me, when you get to a place where you go to Eco Plaza and you don't have money on your account, and you can laugh at it, even go onto your phone and make a Facebook post and say, ha ha ha, life happens. Like that's the space where you get to celebrate the success as well as the success. Mm-hmm. Like you see both with the same love, and that's really been it's really been special. Yeah. So thank you, Andy, for that. And Nicole, when you speak, I see that you're speaking to the same thing.
Yeah.
You talked about it with money today. I've had some issue with some I don't know, it was January. I have like multifocals, and all of a sudden I couldn't drive anymore. I would get these dizzy spells behind the wheel. I'm like, I can't drive anymore. So now I just can't drive anymore, and I don't care. So I can't drive anymore. And then maybe I'll lose my vision. Okay, that'll happen. And then it'll just be, this is just the process. So I'm laughing because things are as they are. And I just surrender to the process and sort of observe myself as I go through it. But but if I say that to Ronnie, of course, my wife, she's freaking out, or if I talk to somebody and they said, you can't do what? You can't drive, you get dizzy spell. Like, aren't you, have you seen this doctor? Have you seen that? And it's so funny. Like, I'm thinking, wow, that's really heavy, like the heaviness with which they are holding the intensity of the situation is so much different. I'm like, hey, I mean, I'm happy. I'm living the life. I'm really just grateful for every moment. Yeah, but, and and I hear that voice in my head, like, oh, that's how it is when you're holding on even to life. Because it's also that intensity, like, oh wow, I want to keep holding on as long as I can, and in some ways, I also feel that surrender is also a lot more accessible in myself. Body's gonna.
That's something that I really, really love about you, Andy. This consistency in every area of your life. Like that's how you live. And I've seen this guy go through, like, the world threw shit at him, and he just stayed. I was like, what the hell is going on here? Like,
the guy I talked to on the phone. The guy I talked to on the phone today, that I told him this story I just told you, he was really perplexed. Like, I've got the same problem you do, but how is it that you so at peace with it? It was that kind of thing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's so much love between you two guys. I feel like I'm in this warm bubble, in the middle of this warm bubble.
The one thing that irritates me, I have to fix right now, because when I'm on the screen, I'm on your screen and Bambos is on the other side. So when you're looking at Bambos, you're looking at me. So I have to put this in the right corner.
But it's still like this.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. So that was Bambos, we have to have this set up next time so that when she's looking at you talking, she's looking at the right person,
Hey, Nicole,
but still, I look at Bambos now.
Oh, you're looking at Bambos now?
Yeah.
Oh, then that was my mistake.
It's flipped.
Okay, then I got to fix this again, because that was what I thought.
I think it's just flipped still. Because I'm looking at Bambos now.
You're looking at Bambos now?
Yeah. That's how it is. For some reason, StreamYard.
It's flipped.
Because now, so now you should be, if you point to the.
Now I'm looking at Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's flipped.
Okay, I'm totally screwing. My
Big
head
revelation.
can't work this out, Bambos.
But Andy,
Uh,
I feel curious because I feel that you're really good in surrendering. But one
mm,
thing that I have in my surrender is a lot of curiosity. So, for example, when I do meet all these waves of fears or doubts, I have this surrender, and in that I have this curiosity that wants to explore and dissect what is moving in me. And I feel curious because you say there this thing that is happening with your eyes, there's surrender, but are you also curious and exploring that, or it's just surrender
oh,
and
I mean,
that's it?
you're right. It's curiosity, but not fear-based curiosity. And so like, oh,
Mm,
this is curious, like I went to Pearl today, to the Pearl place, which I could have done months ago, but I'm like, I should get this checked out. So I go in, and then it was really a funny moment because the guy uh, is really defensive. Before I show up, he's already defensive, and he's like, you got these 6 months ago. You can't expect to get a refund. You can't expect us to service this. And I'm looking at him like, I'm not coming here to like get a refund. I'm talking to you about the situation. And he keeps going and going and going. And I'm laughing. He says, I understand you. And I said, you don't understand a fucking thing. Otherwise we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. Like, I'm coming to you because I've got screwed vision. I don't know if I have a brain tumor. What I'm coming to you is asking you, is this normal? Is it normal for people to have double vision and not be able to drive? That's what I'm here. You don't have to do a damn thing. Just help me. And it was just, his face was like, oh, maybe I didn't understand. And then we had a really nice interaction, but it was hysterical that for him, anyone coming in wants to get a refund, right? Because whole
mm,
predisposition was shoving me away when I'm like, I just want to have a nice talk. And I learned a lot from him, by the way. He taught me like all these things I didn't actually understand about the glasses I was wearing. So it was very helpful, but humorous that they are primed in their brain to think every individual
mm,
coming in wants a refund for something where I didn't even have that in mind when I entered, Yeah.
mm.
Just a side story. Sorry. So yes, I'm curious enough to go in and have the discussion, right? And
Yeah.
curious enough to tell the guy to stop being a jerk. But like, yeah, I'm
I
not
wish I
gonna
was
get a
Nice.
there.
I'm not gonna get an EKG anytime soon, Like I'm not gonna get my brain skull examined. I'll just let it be what it is. Yeah.
Mm,
Until something might happen. Who knows?
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I've got more questions, Bambos, but we can continue if you got something coming up for you.
Going back to, I want to go a little bit back.
Mhm.
The Nicole, what was your story about money before this happened, evolved? Like, what was your? I know you said I make enough, but
Yeah.
what would be
My
the block?
longing always, yeah, my longing was always to make enough to do all the things I want to do.
Hmm.
And that was a big conviction I had. And I think 1 year ago, I realized that that was actually blocking me to receive more than that.
Hmm.
So I think a big shift for me happened in the beautiful convictions I was having around money. So it was like I am a conscious entrepreneur, and like I work for my heart. So why should I charge these immensely high prices? Or I am making enough to travel the world and do everything I want to do. So why more? And I think the moment I released that, something opened where I became available for a flow that apparently wanted to come, but that I was at least partly holding back through those beautiful convictions. Yeah. And besides that, I did carry some judgment towards some people that I saw making a lot of money. I found it all very glittery, very over the top. I didn't have a longing to be in $500 hotels or like, I just didn't have those longings. And still, I don't really. But I am welcoming more bigger money flow now because I do see that I can build also a team from that. I see that I can, my lifestyle is so much more effortless. I'm supporting beautiful projects that I want to support. So I'm still exploring also everything I can do with these new amounts of money. I'm not 100% clear yet, but yeah, it makes a lot more possible. Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit of, because I know that you are also someone that's very connected in terms of channeling. To what degree did that part of you contribute to where you are?
I think that in the sense of channeling my higher self, I knew that it was the right moment to leap with investing in a coach, with really going for that next up leveling. So I think I did have a very clear sense, very clear intuitive sense that there was enough ripeness to make that leap. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what comes up. Yeah.
Thank you. Andy?
Yeah.
Yeah, when I hear you speak now, and it's funny about us, we've also had similar talks in regards to some of the things that are coming up with Nicole. We had a talk where we had Peter Koenig. The Illusion of Money. It's our most watched show and all of the ones we've done on A Wonderful Chaos. And what was really beautiful about the show was that there was some degree that show became a coaching session also for Bambos. Like halfway through, it was him interacting with Bambos, and there was that moment when he asked, like, how much is enough for you? And I think Bambos said, well, if I only had this amount, which was not an exceptionally large amount, then everything would be great. And it was like such a small amount in my head. I'm like, oh my God, if I had that in my account, I think, okay, that'll get me through maybe the year, but like the humor was that it's like, wow. So a perception of what, not necessarily only a need, but an invitation for how much. Like I would have said if I were Bambos, hey, if I have $1 million in the bank, all of a sudden that's just a really great place to be. Mom was like, if I have 5,000 in the bank account, then I'm really feeling, it's like, what the fuck, and the reason why I highlight that is because there's a degree to which I see the mental shift of the scarcity. I did a funny guru show where I played a guru type, and I emulated in the concept I honed in onto was the financial guru saying, you just have a scarcity mindset. And if you just understood what just playing that role, but behind the joke or the humor, there's also some truth in that when your mind is primed to say, I just need to get enough money to get through this month. I just need to get enough money to get through this month. It's totally different than saying, wow, how would life look like if I created everything I wanted and tried to find a way to make it work for me that's beyond just survival? It's a whole different spaciousness there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for a long time, my dream income was to make 60,000 a year. And I really I think my in-between goal was even 36,000. Because in 2019, my year income was, I think, around 20 or 25,000 for the year. And then the year after, so last year, in 6 months' time, I made 3 times that. So it was so confusing for my system also to go from that goal of I would love to make 60,000 a year, that was already beyond what I could imagine, to then suddenly make more than that in 6 months' time. Yeah. And it was a really, like you said, the mind opened into something that also feels quite normal now, but a year ago it felt really far away.
Yeah. I noticed when Andy shared the story, if I tell myself I want to make $1 million, there is a kind of tension image comes up, which is, how the fuck do I get there? My mind, I just let myself go there. It's like, oh yeah, my mind wants to figure out how to do that. So I come to this part of the body as opposed to relaxing into it, which is what I think I hear you say.
Yeah. I think for me it helps that there is kind of steps, even if it's big leaps, there's like in between steps. Because
Yeah.
a year ago, thinking about making 1 million, I would go, that would just sound like too far. And like I wouldn't be able to energetically relate with that or something.
Mm.
And now I feel I start to energetically relate to what that would feel like to make 1 million, or how that would be possible. It's like I start to energetically connect to that, which is a very new sense. But I feel sometimes there are these like in between steps, and that's when it helps me to have people around me who are already doing that, just to energetically start to get to know how they vibrate into the world, and what their, how their mind works, how they have their lifestyle arranged. That I learn a lot from that, even before
Yeah.
they speak, just by the way they are being. It's a very powerful transmission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that,
Yeah.
taking that even a step further, I think, when we look at our kind of our blueprint, our financial blueprint, there is so much that comes from how we were raised, how we saw our parents
Yes.
spend and use money. So how do you see that in your own life? So if you look back at your parents, where do you feel like you picked habits up from watching them spend money that did or didn't serve you?
Yeah. Well, I think especially on my, I'm like, wow, are my parents watching? But
Yes,
it's
they are,
fine.
Nicole.
Yeah, I think especially my father's side of the family, they all earn good money. So they all had good jobs, made good amounts of money, but they are like to save it. So
Yeah.
there is like my grandfather comes from a very wealthy family, and my grandmother comes from a like not so wealthy family, or more like towards like poor or really struggling financially. And they had babies together. So you have this like making a lot of money, but still with a lack mentality mindset.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting combination. So I had family members who had like hundreds of thousands in the bank, but live in a house that is like really behind in maintenance. Or
Yeah.
so there is like a scarcity mindset, or an unsafety even with so much money in the
Yeah.
bank. Yeah, that's
You know,
one side of the family. And
yeah.
then there's other stories on the other side, but there's many stories that I was working with in myself around that, uh, to become more relaxed with money and to
Mm.
deepen my relationship with money. Yeah.
It it reminds me when I was a kid. Oh, do you want to go?
You froze for a moment. Go on, Andy.
When I was a kid. So mom and dad had, dad was Jewish and he was into finance, and mom was Catholic, raised on a farm, the oldest of 13 kids, and living a little bit more hand to mouth. So these two should never have gotten married, but they did, and it was very funny because as there's three kids. I'm the youngest of the three, and they decided to like go up and get the next level of house, which was a really prestigious house in a reasonably nice area in Los Angeles. And it was beyond like my dad's ability to afford at that time. But, my mom somehow convinced him to get into this place. And so now he's living beyond his means. But what I saw was that this prestige and the showing that he had succeeded was so important to him that he was ready to work his butt off to live the dream that, look at, I made it, right? It was like his thing. And what never ceased to amaze me was that he had clients that he worked for who were very, very wealthy. And my dad would
Mm.
only take a small percentage of the amount they would. So like one person, they released the soundtrack for Ghost, the film, and that soundtrack was a
Yeah.
gold album. And my dad got like a small percentage of what this person got because he was basically helping on the back end of the financial management. Now, the person who made that big amount was living in this kind of shack-like house with furniture that he got from my dead grandma because we dropped it and shoved it into his living room.
Mm.
And he's got more money than he'd ever want to spend, and he's just living with the used furniture from my grandma that should have been thrown out 10 years ago. And my dad,
Wow.
basically only a fraction of the money that he has, building this house that was way beyond probably at that time what he could have actually afforded. He had to kind of grow into it. But it was really amazing to me to see that those with more wealth, that was just often had more freedom living really meagerly, compared to the ones that wanted the prestige, that were living to try to impress
Mm,
others, which was just a really
yeah.
interesting thing to have experienced in my life.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
And it can be sad in a way, because my uncle that I was now naming as an example, he passed away 2 or 3 years ago, and he had all that money, and it made me really sad, because I felt like, wow, there are so many things that he could have done with that, and maybe in his heart it was totally fine. I don't know. But yeah, it just made me realize that I also had times where I then wanted to spend it all. I went to the opposite of that also. And I think now I find myself quite balanced, of course, growing and learning and evolving in my own way. But I do feel like I have the ability now to celebrate myself after a big launch, like buy myself something really nice.
Yeah.
But also to
Example.
start saving now. Example, like the computer I'm now on, the iMac, I bought as a gift to myself
I
after my
love
last
that.
launch, because I built my business to a 6-figure business on my 13-inch MacBook.
Yeah.
And I remember one friend saying, she said, Nicole, you have a 6-figure business. Don't you think it's time to buy yourself like a computer, like a normal screen that you can actually work on normally, instead of being like in this
Y-
small screen like that? So that's one
Wow.
example.
Yeah. I've got a question
Yeah.
from there, which adds another dimension to this.
Yeah.
So now that you earn money, you have the joy of this wondrous thing that's guaranteed in life. And there's two things guaranteed: death and taxes. So how does it feel that
What was the
every
first one?
death,
Death or death?
death, you're guaranteed of
Death.
death and taxes? Those are the two things you're guaranteed of, regardless of where you
Yeah.
are and what you're doing. So the question is how far in your earning have you started to say, what the fuck? I'm earning this much, but now so much goes to the government. Why am I working this hard if I'm only paying it to my taxes? How has that process
Yeah.
been for you?
Yeah, I noticed that this year, because I feel this year it looks like I'm growing to multiple 6-figure, and then I see these percentages that go to the tax, and I start to wonder, like, was my life better when I made 2K a month? You know?
Yep.
Because there is, yeah, it did bring me into a very interesting exploration of, like, because now, like, I'm having 15K months, 20K months, 30K months, and I feel like I'm not super clear. I don't know if I have the answer yet, but I'm definitely in that exploration of seeing so much of it going to tax. Yeah.
I'd love
But
to
I
share.
also get a deeper understanding of people that are like hiding it from the tags, or like
Yeah.
trying to work their way around it. I'm suddenly like, this is why they do that.
Yeah.
I understand them on a deeper level also, because, yeah, do I then need to charge even more to have more money left? Or like, it's a lot that goes
Yeah.
to tax.
Well, I'd like to
Yeah.
share with you some way I view tax, and then this would just at least be something that maybe makes you feel more comfortable spending it. So
Okay.
about every 5 years, I say to my wife, Ronnie, I'm going to get a new iMac. And she says, why do you need a new iMac? Because you just got your last one. I'm like, baby, I just need another. I need it to be faster. I'm there all the time. And then I use this rationale on her. I say, babe, if I buy it, then basically you have to think about it is that I don't have to pay tax over that. So in a way, I'm actually, if it's a $5,000 computer, it's not really 5,000 because it's 2,500, because I'd have to pay half of it in tax anyways. So it's and then I rationalize it down till where I say, baby, it's almost like I get the computer for free.
Yeah. That's what I did a little bit with this iMac. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see that. It's interesting. In especially living in a more socialized country like the Netherlands, in a weird way, they're very much incentivizing you to spend for the business because in saving, you actually are spending a lot in taxes. So at least that's what I've seen as my own behavior here, because I'm more
Yeah.
likely to spend. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Nice.
I am talking with friends about it. That helps me also, because I do believe that I am able to create the same freedom I had before and the same fulfillment, like lifestyle wise, before all this growth. And I'm in the process of recreating that. And I do feel I want to keep going to the direction of expanding financially as well, because I really enjoy the expansion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not go like, oh shit, now I, because of all this growth, I lost some of that freedom, let me go back to
And
that.
contract again.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, let me explore how I
Yeah.
can recreate that same freedom for me again.
Yeah. I've often found, because I'll be mentoring a lot of businesses that are kind of nonprofits that are growing stage by stage. And one of the bigger challenges I've found is that the mentality of scrapping it and just getting it like to work, it works really well at some size. But when you want to grow, you do what you're now doing is you get people as assistants to come in, but they now cut down how much you earn as your net profit because of course they cost something. So now you have to grow a bigger business in order for you to be able to support those two and build. So there's this liability that you bring in each time you level up, but in a weird
Yeah.
way, the system forces you to do that in some ways, until you do what I
Yeah.
do, which is like I've really reduced and I take very few clients and they're corporate clients. And in general, it's like I've said, okay, my time is worth this, and now I get to walk 4 hours a day, and that's more important to me than scaling up at the moment. Yeah.
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 Nice.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
We've gone over our hour, so we're actually 105. Do you have anything going on for you, Bambos? We didn't actually discuss. Bambos, as you know, is in Cyprus, and he is living, I would almost say, a very intense experience of how it feels to be in Cyprus while you're in another mind space. So go back into the world you used to be, and then, but you feel yourself to be quite different. So in a way, I kind of feel like he's an astronaut who's now gone onto this other planet. And each day I like to ask him, so what do you discover today on that planet? So we haven't had that discussion. So I'd like to even ask him now, what did you discover on that planet today, Bambos?
Community. I saw that living in the Netherlands. I mean, besides you, Andy, I consider you to be as close as family, right?
Yeah.
But here, there's the blood family, and as I'm discovering more and more family that I haven't seen since the age of 8 or 10, it's like, wow, there's so many pockets of love on all parts of this island, and I'm like completely fucking. I've been crying a lot because of the story that my parents wrote for us as children, deprived us of the love that's actually there. And I mean, I really had a nice perspective because, in a way, my father was a ladies' man. He had a lot of women, and he pretty much, I'm pretty sure I've got more half brothers and sisters than what I've discovered at the moment. But in a way, his brothers and sisters knew that he was living this life. And back then, it hurt. It hurt my mother because, like, hey, you know that my husband is going around and you're not saying anything. So all of a sudden, this animosity happened, and I could tune into, if my brother is behaving in that way, I'm not going to go and interfere in that, but I will talk to my brother, and then he needs to step up. And apparently my dad didn't step up. He stepped down, way down. So in a way, being here and just seeing all the stories dissolving and just finding love and compassion has really been a big thing. So I saw that being here has its challenges, and at the same time, there's so much love and being present and just allowing everyone to share whatever noise they have in their head be there is my act of love. This morning I had to tell off an individual in my family because they were not behaving in a way that I felt was grounded. There was almost a little bit of violence. And then what I discovered, I told a friend, like, wow, I've had several experiences in Cyprus where people are shouting. And I remember back in up until 2014, I considered shouting a normal thing. It's a way of bringing across a point, and it's perfectly okay because I am me. I get to be me. and through my relationship with Andy, I saw that was an act of violence, actually. And so it's been very healing for me to see that, finding peace in myself, that has been part of me and where I am now, to the point where today I was talking to a woman in a cafe, and I could see the direct way of talking, how it impacted her. And I fully owned it during the conversation in a way like, hey, I see that I'm talking you to in this way, but I also see that I feel that you're able to stand your ground with me, but just checking in, how is it landing in you? And all of a sudden I could just celebrate that moment of owning my primal high-pitched and even if she wouldn't be okay with it, like, just tone it down, like, so that's been really beautiful. And
I feel that in you, that softening, like when I met you in 2016 and now, so much softening, Yeah, it's very beautiful to witness. And I also want to say I really enjoyed these videos you were sharing of your mom, like showering you, and the eye gazing that you were doing together. I was like, so beautiful. So beautiful to see that.
I wish I could film the getting her to shower me video.
When her eyes, every time you ask her to do anything on those videos, her eyes are like so fantastic. Her face, like a mix of like, I'm gonna kill him and I love him anyways, like it's just such a beautiful sight,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I just want to say, like, we touched upon so many things. Like, can we like reap some of the wisdoms of our conversation? I feel like I feel a longing for that because I'm imagining we're closing.
Yeah,
I just feel curious. Like, we've said so many things.
I have things that came up for me as sort of meta level themes. I don't know. A lot of times we close off, we say goodbye to you, and then we talk about those things off air, or not off air. We talk about them, but let's leave you on air, and then we can discuss them together.
Nice.
I would like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what I see in you is when you told us earlier in the show, you said, I shaved my head. I basically allowed myself to rediscover after a toxic relationship who I wanted to be. It's almost like
that relationship was not toxic. It was another relationship. But this one, no, it was just a different life vision. Just to not like bash him in any way.
We don't want to throw him under the bus. Sorry about you.
Yeah.
My bad.
Just sorry. I have to share another story. We had a guest on, and I knew her when she was together with a man. And then she left that man and was with another man. And then she came on our show to discuss the relationship she had with this abusive man. And I thought it was the man I knew that whole show. So it was the funniest moment. That man then comments on the show or something like, Andy, you do know it's not me. like just to make sure, because I'm hearing that you think it might be me, and it was a really beautiful moment. So we're going back to that again. But getting back to the thing, what I sensed was, it was almost like I'm allowing myself to be whatever I'm meant to be, and I'm not going to put constraints on it. And that's what I felt in that act. It felt like a rebirth. And I know that of myself, because as you spoke, I sold everything I owned at one point, started in Amsterdam from zero, and I didn't try to make money. I tried to find the life that I felt I was congruent with. And then part of that congruency was that money found me in time. And
Yes.
I was far more interested, as I hear you were, in how do I want to be in the world? How do I want to connect with people? So the journey wasn't how do I make money? The journey is how do I want to evolve and how do I want to be? And through that, there was a magnetism that I see in you. And I also have to say, I recognize in myself that people wanted to be with me and they wanted to give me money. And I found a way to embrace the aspects of myself that weren't able to embrace that money, which I see you have also done. And that just became a life that became very, I would say, in flow.
Yeah.
And I can't deny that, that there's aspects of what you also said where you pointed out that you had influences where you saw people with wealth in your environment. You saw people with money. And I can't deny that being around wealth, I was being educated because I was comfortable with wealth and I was comfortable with being around people with money and having money. And I also know when you haven't been raised with that influence in your life, it also has an influence one isn't aware of. So
Yeah.
I believe that that's an advantage that you and I had, even if we weren't with wealth around us in terms of like directly, we saw and we experienced what it was. And that gave us a greater idea of what money feels like in the world, how it looks. And that served me my whole life. And I don't want to
Yeah.
deny that privilege aspect of it. There is a privilege
Mm.
to that background that you can't deny. I'm not going to deny that. So
Yeah.
that's what I feel in your journey as you spoke through it today. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. That feels good. Yeah.
And I think it's hard. Bambo said it earlier on, is that as people listen, they'll be, and I know we can't make brain left and right because we know how complex it is, but more masculine, determined energy, more linear thinking. They want to know how to make six figures. And
Shave
it's
your
real.
head.
Yeah, exactly. Shave your head and go to a blind 12-day retreat. And the weird, the hard
Darkness, Andy. Darkness.
a
Darkness.
darkness. The hardest thing that I can't share it, and obviously you embody it, and I would say the challenge is how do you help someone say it's your journey? It's not about getting the money. It's about
Mm.
making peace with everything you are so that everything emerges from you and it's a natural
Yeah.
consequence. It sounds so airy-fairy that if you try to explain it to somebody, they'll say, "Oh my God, it sounds like you watch too much of The Secret or something." But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any other way. When we spoke before you came on, I already recognized it. You recognize it in a second, in a person,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I
I
recognized it in
think
you.
there is one thing we can do, and that is to follow that intuitive guidance, like follow what makes you come alive in each moment and lean into your edge in that, like go out of your comfort zone and like live in your stretching zone, like lean into that edge, follow that intuitive guidance. And then I feel our mission or our business will find its natural size, whatever that is meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. That would be the principle of living in general, would be to what degree can you invite a little bit more of discomfort so you can expand out as far as you can till you need to contract a little bit and then you expand out, and
Yeah.
that thing, right?
Yeah,
So
for sure. Yeah.
was that enough summary
Nice.
or would you like a bit more than that?
It feels good. I feel already more like I felt my body was longing for that,
Yeah.
something that like wraps it up.
For you, Bambo,
Yeah.
stuff come up for you that you would like to encapsulate?
I'm. It's not my skill to summarize things.
Yeah. How did you feel about the show? Let's ask you that question.
Me or Bambus?
Bambos.
Yeah, I'm more the feely type. Expand, like relaxed. I saw that my body was really leaning back, and I felt my breath going all the way in. It was like just immersing myself in the sea.
Beautiful. There was one last thing you said that we didn't touch on, which was that like your sphincter being contracted and holding, right? That experience. I had that experience most of my life, and like you, I didn't know that I was holding myself so tightly because I was so stressed out. So it's weird because, like a fish in water, you don't even know you're so high strung because you don't know how it could feel different. So part of that journey of that release, I experienced was there was almost ability to access more of the deeper pain because there wasn't holding in terms of my body holding. So I see that's a hard thing for people to feel like, what does life look like in a way that I've never experienced it, right? It's that, how do you know the thing you don't know? But I would say 95% of the people that I'll interact with, I feel them holding immediately. And I've even seen people really good at, you're holding it in your throat, or you're holding it in your stomach, or you're holding it in your sphincter, or whatever. Like there's some people who do read that holding very well. But I do feel like in order to allow the abundance that you're speaking from, there is a degree to which there is a release, and then kind of things flow your way because you release into it. And yeah, that's another hard thing to describe, but when you feel it, you know it. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean the thing that's flowing is what you think you want, but it's going to be exactly what you need in that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. And that's the power of that unwinding, right? Like what really helps me in that is to ask myself what feels most nourishing, like what feels softening. And that's the thing that relaxes my body and has me surrender deeper to that deeper intelligence that is that has got my back, that is carrying me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Nicole, what will be a subject that we have you on again? Not with money anyway.
Relationship.
Relationship.
Yeah, I think I have a lot to share about my relationship with Nemanja. Yeah.
Nice.
That could be one topic.
Could it be called My First Healthy Relationship?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, sweet.
Actually, yeah.
I love that.
Name.
Okay, so we got a show. My First Healthy Relationship.
Isn't it funny, Andy, always says sex and money are one and the same?
Yeah.
I feel a lot of like similarities between how I relate with money and how I relate with Nemanja. And I see that there is a wisdom in that, how we relate with our business and our relationship or our money. Yeah. There's a lot of similarities there for me.
I like that as a part of that next show. Yeah.
Yeah.
And wonderful. Neranja, your love is saying, I'll be watching.
Nice.
I think what
we don't want Naranja to watch that show because stuff might come up. Don't want to discuss that on there.
Put it all on the table.
I think what he's actually saying, I'm lovingly witnessing.
Yes, of course. And we have Bolalong in South Africa who shows his gratitude, saying great informational show. So thank you, Bolalong. We love you as always. JC Barnett in Tennessee. Is it Tennessee? He always gets angry when I screw it up.
Tennessee.
Kentucky. No, Kentucky. Kentucky. I take it back. Kentucky. Thank you, Bolalong. All right, thank you, JC, in this case. So that's it for today. We went way over, which is great fun. And we have Monday off. Bolalong, don't forget we have Monday off. You'll be pissed off if we don't show up, if you show up and we're not there. So our next show is Tuesday next week, right?
One more announcement. I know that Nicole has a retreat in Hidden Paradise, and we are also organizing a wonderful Chaos Summit right after Nicole's retreat.
Is that right? Oh, yeah. Fantastic. Nice.
It's my first in-person event since last year, March. I'm so excited.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if people want more information about the retreats, where do they go?
Yeah, they go to womenofancientfutures.com.
Beautiful.
All my events are up there. Women of Ancient Futures.
Fantastic.
I love it.
Thank you, Nicole. Send you a lot of love.
Right.
And then we'll prepare our next show. And we're doing that on
a wonderful
chaos.